Hey, how we doing on this Saturday, Vol Nation? This is Frank. This is the House of Orange Sports Channel coming at you. We're going to talk some football this morning, as I thought there's a few significant notes of interest that I've run across on, whether it be on VolQuest, whether it be on Twitter, X, or whatever. Is a lot going on with, of course, Portal is still going. You had the Polynesian Bowl going. Obviously, there's some questions about the coaching staff, how that's going to play out as well. Make sure you hit that like, that share, that subscribe as we roll on right here with this. So the first bit of news, I want to hit the portal. Is there potential commitment on the horizon? I want to talk about 2026 recruiting. There seems to be a potential big, I wouldn't say commitment, but Tennessee's based on some news and notes, seems to be in really good shape on a highly rated 2026 recruit. There's the Polynesian Bowl I want to talk, as Tennessee had 5 guys compete in that, and then we'll conclude with coaching news as well. The first one, which I think something could come down probably pretty soon, is Duke transfer running back Star Thomas visited Tennessee. He left yesterday. And, coming out of that visit, Austin Price, VolQuest.com, had an article with him where he talked about it, said he enjoyed it. Just, he loved the coaches, how everything was organized. And he said they were really honest with him. Said they didn't sugarcoat anything. That's what I want to be around my last year. Just being around it and seeing there was no faking. He said it was real from the start. And so what's left for him? He's visited Central Florida. Now he's visited Tennessee, and there are no other trips planned right now. Pete Nakos on 3 did put in an RPM projection last night for Tennessee to get Thomas in the fold. And that's one of the things I've said for a while, is I really feel like Tennessee needs one more running back. Of course, you got Peyton Lewis, you got Deshaun Bishop, and then you got 2 freshmen, DeJuan Morris, you got Justin Baker coming in as well. I think adding a guy like Thomas to the fold would be really good. He had good numbers at Duke. He had over 800 yards last year rushing. He had over 5 touchdowns as well. He caught, I think it was around 20 passes, around 150 yards and a touchdown also. He is a versatile running back. Now, Tennessee doesn't use the running backs a lot in the passing. They don't use them near as much as they should. When you've got some of the speed that they have, I don't understand why we've not hit some swing passes, some running back screens, some, kind of veers across the middle, or, just something like that. I hope that Tennessee will incorporate that into their passing game next year. But if you add Thomas to the equation, does he come in as a starter? Is it a 3-headed monster, more or less? Because right now I think it's Lewis and Bishop splitting the carries. Could a guy like Thomas come in and be that dude? Again, it's not for sure, but I think it seems like Nakos has been pretty good. Nakos and Wilfong, these are the guys on the portal that I follow. And Austin Price made the comment things were trending well. Based on those guys, that's kind of your go-to with it. Based on what they're all saying, I think Tennessee gets good news in the near future on Thomas. And I think that'll be a nice addition to the roster. Then at that point, I still think you could possibly add another interior lineman and possibly one more wide receiver on offense. And I think you're good. Defense, I like to see them add maybe a defensive lineman or 2. Do they possibly go to the portal for a corner now that with the Jamad McCoy injury, even though McCoy will be back, do you want to have some cover there as well? Or do you develop guys in the room? Because I would imagine that some of them, based on comments you see around, and I've seen Brent Hubbs make the comment too, you may see some guys cross-train in the secondary. You may see some guys running at safety and at cornerback. I'm not saying they'll switch out in games in the fall, but with spring practice coming up in the not too distant future, wouldn't be a surprise to see some guys work both positions on that. But I think this Tennessee football team is set up pretty nicely, to be honest with you. I think it's a pretty good looking football team next year. And I I think the schedule will be tougher just based on their away games, but I think it's I think it's going to be a good football team. Maybe I'm in the minority on this, but a lot of it too. I'm excited about where they're going with the wide receiving core. I'm excited for the new blood. Okay. I'm excited for these younger guys to get it. It's like the secondary year ago. I've used that comparison a lot of time. I'd seen all I needed to see from not this past season's secondary, but the one before where everybody hit the trail. It was kind of the same with this wide receiving core in that I'd kind of seen, especially all the guys who transferred out, I'd seen what I needed to see of them. I'm excited to see your Staleys, your Smiths. What's an Amari Jefferson do? How much does Chris Brazzell improve? Mike Matthews, along the way. What's a Boo Carter look like on offense? There's a lot. And, I'm going to segue into the Polynesian Bowl. Could a guy, of course, an Ethan Davis. I've seen where Miles Kitzelman's working hard with him. Of course, Davis should be the second tight end. What about a Deshaun Brame? Caught 4 passes for 92 yards and in the Polynesian Bowl. And I think he had 1 or 2 touchdowns I forgot how many. He had at least 1, if I'm not mistaken, on it, maybe 2. But he looks real good. Is he a guy who can move out wide, potentially, with his size, his frame, with his athleticism? So Tennessee did have 5 in the Polynesian Bowl. Brame, George McIntyre, Jaden Perlotti, David Sanders, Ethan Utley. McIntyre did throw a touchdown. And he actually may have thrown a couple touchdowns. I think it was. I saw people talk. I've not seen stats on it. Did see that. Didn't see much about Perlotti or Utley. David Sanders Jr., there was some video of him in the week, and he looked really good on there as well. I fully expect David Sanders Jr. as a day 1 starter in Knoxville. If not, this staff just really doesn't want to get 5 stars. They don't want to get talent. And if you're not going to put him in and go with it, then that staff is too stubborn with the younger guys. That's just the bottom line. Or either the recruiting rankings are totally off. You get a guy ranked that high to me, you got to put him in the fold. Quarterback's a different story, and offensive lineman or anywhere else, though. If you're rated that high, you better put them out there and see what they got. Brame, very encouraging. Though McIntyre, a good showing. McIntyre's some of his ratings fell over the course of the year. That was Tennessee's number 1 target. That was Nick Saban's target before he retired as well. So, yeah, McIntyre can play. And you look at some of his video this year at Brentwood, he can make the throws. He can make the throws, no doubt about it. Let's see, recruiting too. Tristen Keys, one of the top wide receivers for the 2026 cycle. There's some reports out. I think Austin Price had mentioned it. There was some just talk about him at the game. So according to On3, he's rated 7th overall. It's saying that Tennessee's in really good shape with him right now. 6'2", 185 out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Be big time if Tennessee can close that one and hold on to him. And I'm kind of curious with this NIL money if Tennessee kind of shifts their focus a little bit. I really feel like they've gone pretty heavy with tight ends in the portal. Not just the portal, but with the high school class as well. They got some good receivers last year. Now, to get a receiver of this caliber, you're probably going to have to pay some pretty good money. That's just the landscape. That's not the kid himself. That's the landscape. If you're going to get a big-time offensive tackle, big-time edge, big-time quarterback, a big-time receiver, you're going to have to pay on it. Tennessee needs to do what it takes to get this one across the finish line. And then, of course, you're going to have to hold out and recruit him till the finish line on it. But hopefully, it sounds like things are in a positive direction there with Tennessee and Tristen Keys. That's big. And that says a lot about, it's Kelsey Pope is obviously going to be the main recruiter on that one. If he can finish that one, and if that unit develops this year, I think Kelsey Pope will be just fine in Knoxville. Last thing, speaking of coaching staff, talking about Tim Banks is finalizing a deal to return as defensive coordinator. based on the comments that I've seen, just mods on VolQuest, comments around, I think there's probably a decent possibility that the whole staff returns intact. Eckler, there was talk about him with Nebraska. Brent Hubbs had put that that seems to have died down right now. Now, could some of these guys pursue something maybe in the NFL? It seems like a lot of your college openings are pretty much done. But with the playoffs, with all this silly, I guess you call it silly season with coaching's, just coaching vacancies. There's the word I'm looking for in the NFL. What could happen there? Could there be opportunities? But it seems like there's a possibility of Eckler being back, Willie Martinez, and Tim Banks. And it looks like Kurt Schmidt has been said he's leading the workouts. His contract ends at the end of this month. But it does certainly look like he'll be back, or I don't think he'd be leading the workouts. Somebody else would be on top of that. So I think there's a real good possibility that the coaching staff remains intact. I still think Eckler's the one to watch, but I'm good with Eckler coming back. I think his special teams have been really good down there. They weren't perfect last year, but toward the end of the year, I thought they really kind of rebounded. Yeah, there was the kick return at Vandy, but that was really an outlier. That doesn't happen with them very often. And then you kind of got your punt return game going. Your kicking game became better at the end of the year, too. I'm totally fine with Eckler coming back because special teams is a big part of it. And you got to win that part of the game. I'm good with Martinez coming back because I thought the secondary took strides last year. Yeah, it's not perfect. Yeah, we can all analyze the not getting your head turned around. But I just wonder how much that happens around the country if we really sat and watched a lot of teams. When a dude gets burned, how much does that really happen? Because I mainly watch Tennessee and I mainly will watch some SEC games. But that's about it. But we'll keep updating as we go along. That's what stood out so far for the week. Nothing else really at this point in time. But you guys have a great Saturday. This is Frank. This is the House of Orange. It's always a great day to wear the orange.